I don't typically do face cam videos on this channel. However, the latest leaks from Modulo are so insane, I feel like I kind of have to, because there's a lot of stuff to go over, and I'm going to put animations and stuff on screen to kind of fill the void, and panels from the last few chapters. A lot of stuff's happened really quickly, even though I'm pretty sure there's going to be pages missing. There's so much to talk about. So literally, the chapter starts off with a similar gag page to what we usually see in some of the other chapters. For example, like when Maru drew Sukuna and stuff, similar sort of thing. But this gag page is actually in reference to, Mino looking for Yuji. And in this little gag page, we hear Todo is mentioned of all people. They say like ex-grade 1 sorcerer Todo, and they they mention him, and they even say that everyone hates Todo besides Yuji, which is a fun little nod to him in the main series. Now, the way the chapter progresses is we follow on from the previous, where Yuji shot piercing blood to all the Sumerians and the spectating sorcerers, right? Who were trying to kind of keep the peace around the Dabura fight. Yuji, this one Sumerian who keeps appearing, called, I think, Otsuki, appears, jumps out of the skyscraper that Yuji shot piercing blood into, comes down with an axe, to which Yuji just catches it in the same way that Sukuna does in his fight against Mahoraga. And now instantly, for ages, a lot of people like me have been saying the logical thing that Yuji cannot Blackflash at will. He might be able to now, because you gotta think. So Yuji sees this one fodder, catches an axe, goes to punch him, and he immediately Blackflashes him. In the first punch we see him throw, it is a Blackflash, okay? Chances are he can Blackflash at will now, right? And as he's just Blackflashed this random alien fodder, Mino, the dude that was looking for him, tries talking to him, to which Yuji, now kind of like a bit of a dickhead, shoots piercing blood kind of behind him, straight into Mino's ear, just taking a little chunk out, and Mino immediately is poisoned by the effect and starts throwing up, which kind of gives us confirmation that his blood is similar to Choso's and the other, cursed room death paintings. Like, you had Ison catches you had like rotten stuff, similar sort of thing, but it seems like it's more like Chozo's piercing blood more than anything, because he literally just starts throwing up. And after he does this, like after Mino is instantly poisoned, Yuji says that even if Yuta's grandson loses, he'll still like wipe his ass, which is a weird phrase and it's a weird translation, but kind of just saying like, even if he loses this fight against the alien, he'll clean up after him and either kill Maru or kill Mahoraga. He could be referencing Yuka or Tsurugi from what I can tell. More than likely Tsurugi. But even if Tsurugi loses, he'll kind of clean up after him, get rid of Maru, or at least save Tsurugi. And in this sort of panel as well, we see that the two fingers that he lost in Shinjuku so that Yuta could use Cleave, he still hasn't RCT'd them back. Though he more than likely could, he just never did. Which kind of reminds me of like Kagurabachi and Samura, where like he has the ability to heal these like wounds, but just doesn't for like symbolic and like thematic reasons, right? And just, emotional damage for the audience and the reader. I was reading the leaks with Alonso and he was like, oh my god, Yuta upscale, that means Yuta could use Shrine as an adult. It's like, yeah, sure, you can take it as a Yuta upscale, but whatever. But then as it continues, Yuji kind of sees the fight between Dabura and Mahoraga, and he sees this crazy stuff going on. He's like, is this okay, sensei? Like thinking of Gojo, which makes a lot of sense, because as we see Dabura's state of mind and what he's thinking to himself, he's literally Gojo in the hidden inventory arc, in the sense that he's realized Dabura, he's already adapted to his like kind of base curse technique, so he's done curse technique reversal, like translated the negative cursed energy in a positive, and instead of it being like a light-based attack, it looks like a darkness-based attack, and it looks kind of like a negative energy burst, negative energy ball, like on Omega Shenron, or like Super 17 move from Dragon Ball GT. Bit of a weird comparison, but that's what it looks like. But the posing itself looks like, Gojo charging up a blue in Shinjuku. Like, I'll put the pose on screen. It looks very similar to that. And so the comparison Yuji has between Dabura and this kind of fight going on and Gojo makes a lot of sense, which is pretty cool. And just Dabura in this chapter and the previous is insane. He's just like, has the talent of like Higuruma, which was said to be like, similar to Gojo's, because he just looks at the sword of extermination and immediately just lends RCT, which is stupid, right? Of course he could do that, but whatever, sure. But he does his own Mega Shenron Death Ball, and he needs to kill him or he's fried. But as Dabura is charging up, we cut back to Maru and Tsurugi from the last chapter fighting, just after, Tsurugi's ring, Rika's ring has awakened, and he's got the new Vasto Lorde face on. So he's like talking to Rika as he's fighting. As Maru and Tsurugi are kind of dealing blows and crossing fists, Rika just whips out the Soul Split Katana. Now, here's the funny thing. The Soul Split Katana, or at least both of them, are kind of a mystery, especially in Modulo now. Now, what I mean by this is, Rika having the Soul Split Katana means that more than likely it was just kind of in her weapon storage, right? Which makes a lot of sense. However, that means that's also very confusing, because in the main series, we never found out what happened to the original soul split katana, as Toji uses it against, in the hidden inventory, gives it to Wemi. Wemi gets passed to Geto. All the weapons from Geto, when Geto dies, gets put in the, weapon storage at Jujutsu Tech. And then what happens to them after that? And don't forget, after that, of course, we have Maki's awakening, where Mai kind of zangetsus into a soul splitter, because she's still kind of part of the sword, but also not. It's weird, but it kind of leaves a big question mark as to the soul splitter we see here. I don't know if it's the original or if it's one that Mai created, but Tsurugi just has a soul splitter now, which, soul splitter, heavenly restriction, cool combo, right? It's kind of it's a common pattern between them, right? Then, of course, as, Rika Tsurugi is about to cut, Maru's face completely off, Maru turns around. He's like, oh, what's behind me? Basically, as Dabura and Mahoraga have been fighting, all the low-level casters are kind of trying to run away, understandably so, because, there's pretty much nukes going off behind them, so they're trying to flee. And as a result, there's just kind of like a Garganta. Like, imagine Bleach, the Garganta opening. There's just waves of, like, a horde, a full horizon of cursed spirits, right? And then Yuji just casually walks back onto the scene, and he tries to figure out, like, kind of how much, similar to how when he was using blood manipulation, kind of figuring out how much he should use, and he just whips out a dismantle, right? He does a similar sort of flick as, like, Sukuna in the anime, like, where he just flicks upwards, just shoots one dismantle, and it just covers the entire horizon, destroying everything, including the cursed spirits, everything in its way. Like, it is ridiculous, because as that's going on, as Yuji set off that huge dismantle, the explosion from Dabura is also going off in the background. And the explosions, look, they're massive, right? A lot of the leakers are saying, oh, it's hollow purple level, it's Fuga level. We don't know that, but really, really big explosions, right? And this was an incredibly casual slash from Yuji as well. It just kind of goes, and it goes. So, who knows? We haven't seen Fuga yet. Maybe Yuji has Fuga. Who knows? We haven't seen it, but it's a cool idea. After Yuji, of course, destroys that entire, like round 20 wave zombies just with one single attack, Maru, of course, starts crying out his third eye because, cursed spirits are, like, equivalents or, like, incredibly similar to cursed spirits. So, like, all those cursed spirits dying, which are incredibly similar to Kallians, makes his third eye start crying, which, freaks him out a bunch. Obviously, it doesn't kill him. Usually it would, because, if there were actual Kallians, people do die when that happens, but they're not actually Kallians, so Maru doesn't die here, obviously, and the fight continues for a little bit longer for the next couple pages. But basically, Tsurugi slashes Maru with a big soul splitter slash. Maru, of course, can't block it because, soul splitter cuts through everything, cuts the soul. If you see the shape of the soul, it's just going to cut through you. And the chapter itself ends, or at least seemingly ends. It feels like there's one more page left, and I don't think... There might be, there might not be, but it ends with Rika's mask kind of falling off, saying, like, Tsurugi saying, thank you, Rika. Rika kind of just saying, do your best or whatever. And it's just left with Tsurugi, like, shadowed face, you can't see him, holding the soul splitter in a very similar stance to Maki in Sakurajima. Now, so in the course of this chapter, we got a lot, okay? So we've got, well, even just the past few chapters, just to kind of put them all together. Yuji has got, like, mastered blood manipulation better than anyone we've ever seen. He's can seemingly black flash at will, because he did one singular punch and it just black flashed, like, instantly. He now has seemingly mastery of shrine, or at least, huge, massive dismantle incredibly casually. His piercing bloods are also seemingly poisonous, similar to Choso. He's also clearly aware of Yuta's grandchildren and knows them and recognizes them, which is, it hints at a possible relation between them in the past before Yuji, dipped and went on his whole wanderer's journey, like he's Kazuma Kiryu or something. And also, a lot of people were theorizing that Yuji had stitches on his forehead and it was secretly Kenjaku. It was a dumb theory, but now they're all kind of put to rest because we see Yuji's full face here. We finally, it's the first time in Modulo so far that we see a character from the main series with their full face visible, and no, Yuji doesn't have the scars on his forehead. He just has, like, the original scars that he has, where it's, like, from Mahito and stuff just left on his face. We also, of course, from the last chapter, we have Dabura using his CT, going all out, learning RCT from the Sword of Extermination, learning Curse Technique Reversal, which is insane. If Yuji pops domain in the next chapter, that means Dabura will see a barrier. He'll instantly learn a barrier, or at least simple domains and stuff can be used by someone just after seeing them. So Dabura's a ball of... He's the new potential man, because his potential is insane, but he's obviously not as much of a jobber as people portray Megami to be. Also, as I said earlier, Yuji still hasn't healed his two fingers, meaning that Yuta had Shrine when he was still alive, and Yuji feels really bad for not... He just hasn't healed those fingers yet for some reason, even though there's literally no reason why he shouldn't, given the fact that at the start of the story, Yuta's already dead. We see his funeral, yet Yuji doesn't heal those fingers back because he's really friggin' depressed now. I mean, as I say, he shot Mino in the ear for no reason. Mino seems really chill, and he just shot him just to make him throw up, which is interesting, right? It's interesting to see this new dynamic with Yuji, because throughout this entire chapter, he is talking to himself. He's kind of going insane, or has at least gone insane, for like being a nomad for this long. He seemingly just goes around and just kind of deals with problems as they come along and just kind of hiding from Sorcerer Society. Hence why Mino had to look for him. But in the little gag page, it seems that Yuji was just hanging out with maybe someone related to Todo, maybe, who knows, we'll probably find out in the next chapter. Of course, we also see Tsurugi with the Soul Split Katana, which is, you know, huge because it's a weapon that kind of just negates defenses and just lets you, well, as far as we know, Tsurugi can't see the shape of the soul, but he can still damage stuff with it, which is kind of interesting. Maybe something will happen next chapter that'll awaken him, or he'll come across Mio and Daido or something, you know. So obviously Tsurugi having the soul split here isn't the biggest thing in the world because he can't see the shape of the souls. Maybe he throws it to Yuji because that's something people were theorizing back in Shinjuku for a very long time, that Yuji would get the soul split katana. I know I'm yapping really fast, but a lot of stuff is happening and I want to get this video out really quickly because I'm really hype about this. I don't really do modulo leaks because, you know, it's not really a leaks channel, but this was really hype. This is one of the best chapters so far. I mean, the modulo's been on a streak. There's a reason why people have been saying modulo's better than the main series, even though we're only about 20 chapters in. It's insane. This is great. But yeah, I think that covers about everything. Todo was mentioned. Yuji, we see a lot of his new power set, and he's not controlled by Kenjaku, thank God. I really wouldn't like it if that theory was real. As I've said in previous videos, I saw a theory that people think Kenjaku is like the tumor in Yuka's brain, which is the dumbest theory I've heard. If that turns out to be the case, that's stupid. Surprisingly, a lot of the stupid stuff that fans have been saying has been coming true. Yuji can Blackflash at will. He seemingly can, which is insane. He's probably got Fuga. He did one shrine in it, well, one dismantle, and it just took over the horizon. It was insane. Rika also, of course, disappears at the end of the chapter. Whether or not she's completely gone, who knows? More than it's portrayed to be that sort of way. There's a big goodbye sort of theme, like aura to it, like Rika saying goodbye to Tsurugi. It's quite wholesome, and leaving him with the soul splitter, which is like a big deal. But as I said, he can't see the shape of the soul yet, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I've been yapping for about 15 minutes, so I'll probably cut it down to probably about 10. Let me know if you enjoyed this chapter as much as I did. I think it was phenomenal. Granted, it's the leaks, not the actual thing, but you know what I'm saying. Toodles my doodles, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I very much enjoyed yapping for 15 minutes, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace.